thing I want to do for history today is review for the quiz. So first of all, let's start by looking at the map that will be on your quiz.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware.
I hope that shows that you guys know it really well, so I'm going to ask you some questions. The Declaration of Independence was approved on what date? Just say it.
1776.
You need to say the month, the day, and the year. You can't just say 1776. So everybody?
1776.
July
4th, 1776.
During the War for Independence, which soldiers were called redcoats?
British.
Say it. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. British. And just say it once, please. Who became first president of the United States?
Washington.
George Washington. Patrick Henry demanded that this be added to the Constitution.
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights. The first commander-in-chief of the American Army, George Washington. Wait till I finish. Well, he would have been called General Washington, but his name was still George Washington. So we're good with George Washington. Someone's humming and I don't want to hear that. A person who measures land and draws maps.
Surveyor.
The French and Indian War was fought between France and
England.
Good. Who said, "Give me liberty or give me death"?
Patrick Henry.
The first written plan of government for the United States.
Articles of Confederation.
The first written plan was Articles of Confederation. Did we use it?
No.
We used the Constitution instead. Please stop talking out. Patrick Henry was the first governor of
Virginia.
Very good. All right, and then that map. All right, we are going to go ahead and start the new chapter. We're going to read about James Armistead. Thank you. From slave to spy. As the War for Independence was being fought, James Armistead listened eagerly and carefully to any news he could hear about the war. Virginia was his home, and James wanted to do what he could to defend it from the British. He went to his master, William Armistead. Notice he has the same last name as his master. Okay, since he was a slave, he may not have had a last name, and he took the last name of his master, and asked if he could leave and fight in the war. He gave James permission to join the War for Independence. So he was a slave, but his master gave him permission to leave and go fight for the War for Independence. Okay. James Armistead was assigned to serve under a French officer named Marquis de Lafayette. That name, does it sound French, maybe?
No.
Yeah, it would be a yes. That is a French name. He was the commander of the French troops, see, who had come to help the Americans win their independence from the British. Lafayette taught James Armistead how to work as a spy, pretending to be an escaped slave. James Armistead's job was to collect information about the plans of the British troops and to take that information back to Lafayette. America's newest spy traveled to the English camp of Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold was also a spy for the other side, and General Cornwallis. Oh, you guys remember General Cornwallis was in the story about the drummer boy. Remember, he was the bad British general.
No.
Benedict Arnold was a traitor to America. He had been a general in the American army, but had changed sides and now worked for the British army. James Armistead went to him first. All right, let's read the important words before we continue on. Spy, one who collects information secretly from an enemy country. Traitor, someone who gives help or information to an enemy country. So James Armistead was a spy for the Americans, helping them. And Benedict Arnold was a traitor because he used to be for the American colonies, and then he switched sides and started helping the British. All right, now the important names. James Armistead. Why are you not on the same page with me? Please pay attention so you know this when it comes time to take the quiz. This quiz will be next week, next Wednesday, and you'll have your test next Friday. You need to be paying attention. James Armistead, first African American double spy. Alright? So that means he was working for the Americans, but he was acting like he was working for the British. So to the British, he would tell them that he was helping them, but he was really helping the Americans. So the British thought he was helping them. And then Marquis de Lafayette, commander of French troops helping George Washington. Benedict Arnold, an American officer who chose to switch sides and work for the British. General Cornwallis, leader of the British Army in the War for Independence. Pay attention. You need to be looking at your book, not staring at whatever it is you're staring at. All right, let's look at the top of page 113. Mr. Arnold, James Armistead said, I have run away from my master in Virginia. Now I want to help the British. Good, I'll put you to work right away, said Benedict Arnold. He believed James Armistead and used him as a guide for British troops through the local roads of Virginia. James Armistead also worked with the British General Cornwallis, who paid him to go to the American troops and spy on them. But when he took trips back to the American Army, it was to give them information about the British. James Armistead worked around the British generals and troops. Because he looked and acted like a servant, the British generals talked about their battle plans in front of him. He listened carefully while he worked and later wrote the information to send to Lafayette. If you need a lozenge, please get it. You're making way too much noise. Because no one imagined that he was a spy, James Armistead could move easily between the American and British camps. James Armistead was the first African-American double spy. He sent correct information he gathered to the American generals, telling them the number of British troops and where they were going, but he gave false information to the British generals about the American Army's plans. All right, so that's what it is to be a double spy. You really are working for one side, but the other side thinks you're working for them when you're really not. All right, now one more important place. Everybody, Alex, do you know that I'm on page 113, even though you're staring at Tim Lee at page 112? Let's read the important place on page 113. Yorktown, Virginia, where the last major battle of the War for Independence was fought, where the British surrendered to the Americans. And they show you the map showing where Yorktown is in Virginia. All right. We will stop there.